And now, 5 cold as ice, chilling tales for the winter holidays. Corporal Robert sat on a golden chair under a tall Christmas tree, wearing a white beard and a red suit. The huge hangar on an abandoned base that appeared on no map was otherwise empty and quiet. A door opened, and in walked a doctor wearing a white smock, pushing a sleeping boy in a wheelchair in front of him. When the boy woke, Roberts put on his best Santa voice. "Hello, Eugene. Have you been a good boy?" he said. Eugene nodded weakly. Thick veins stood out on the pale skin of the misshapen, oversized skull. Robert saw them pulse visibly. He cleared his throat and pretended to read a sheaf of papers printed with gibberish. "Yes, indeed. You were a very good boy. And how are you doing today? Enjoying the festive season, I hope?" Eugene's dark eyes were fearful.
"I have bad dreams,"
the boy said. Oh dear. That's very upsetting. But dreams are just dreams, aren't they? They can't hurt you. Ho, ho, ho. Roberts replied jovially.
"But they feel so real, Santa. I see the..."
Eugene stopped, as if he really didn't want to say what came next.
"The goat. The black goat,"
he continued quietly. Roberts frowned, his bushy white eyebrows furrowing.
"It says bad things in my dreams. It says it wants to eat me. And then it will eat everything else, too. It's coming closer. I saw it in a mirror yesterday. I saw it push its claws through from the other side. I'm scared. Can you please make it go away, Santa?"
Is that what you want for Christmas then, Eugene? The boy nodded vigorously, struggling with the exertion on his weak neck muscles. Then that's what you'll get, my dear boy. Look under the tree on Christmas Day, and you'll find a present that will keep that scruffy old goat away. Roberts gave his biggest smile and winked. Merry Christmas, Eugene. The boy hugged him and fell asleep immediately, exhausted. Roberts was being debriefed in the commander's office.
The boy got his present. Just a cheap toy. But he believes it works. We're safe for another year at least. Good work, soldier,
the commander said. He poured both of them drinks. Whiskey. Neat.
How are you feeling?
I keep hearing faint sleigh bells in the choir. It started last night. The commander was silent for a while.
You convinced the kid. Really made it feel as if he's talking to the real Santa. Then that strange brain of his does the real work, and we, the world, stay safe. But talking to Eugene affects the mind permanently. It might get worse. I'm sorry, son. You will be honorably discharged. We'll do what we can for you, and your family will be taken care of for as long as they live. It's the least we can do for a hero.
Roberts considered this, nodded slowly. He saluted. I did it for my family. No regrets. Merry Christmas, sir.
Tell us another Christmas story.
Tell us a Christmas story.
Please.
It was on a night like tonight. Once upon a Yuletide Eve, that the tender-hearted Santa Nicholas traveled to our village to meet the butcher, Garam, to question him about the missing children.
Yes, is right. I am the butcher here, but why blame it on me? I'm honest man. I make honest living. I serve the meat here. Everybody like the beef, the chicken. But the specialty, yes, the specialty, the pork, the pig, the swine, they love it. Tell me, what is holiday feast without the ham? Children? I don't know nothing about no missing children. You've got the wrong guy. So stay away. And don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. We wouldn't want it to accidentally be chopped off, would we?
Then what happened?
A kind and frail man Santa Nicholas was, but not a fool. Santa Nicholas, the bishop, pushed past Garm the butcher with a mere wave of his hand. With a scrutinizing eye, the heart-breaking truth was discovered. The children had been pickled, ready to be sold as sweet sausages.
Then what happened?
Well, Santa Nicholas began to weep for the children until the angel of Santa Nicholas's Lord instructed him to lay hands upon their remains and to pray for their resurrection. And he did pray with a booming voice that shook the entire village.
Furious communicatus, et furious mercunadetum, extronum exciadensio, essien godisero, non essia datum, non essia saciatronum, non essia oadatum, resurrectus communicatus, ex unum datum.
And just like that, the children were reformed and brought safely back to the loving arms of their parents. And that is how Santa Nicholas became the patron saint of all the children. The end.
Tell us about the Krampus clause.
Old Pa, tell us where Krampus takes the bad children.
Please.
Of course. One more story, then off to bed you go. Every child knows the story of a Krampus clause and how they are warned to be good for goodness sake, lest Krampus come in the dead of night to collect the bad ones in his big burlap bag. But do you know where Krampus Claus takes the children in his bag? Huh? I see you shaking your head, so I will tell you. He takes them down to Undertale.
There, you're forced to collect branches from the barren trees to beat with. He'll make you dance on hot coals while he plays the fiddle. He will rip out your hair and add it to his beard. He will tear away your face to wear as his mask. He will grind your bones to make his bread. And when he's good and through, he'll eat all that's left of you, bit by bit, bite by bite, and morsel by morsel, unless you go to bed right now. Old Pa has to get up early in the morning, you know.
Good night,
Good night,
Opa.
Opa.
Faudra danser avec moi. Du cordonnier t'es bête, qu'est-ce que t'as donc dans la tête, c'est que moi.
This time of year reminds me of some really weird and scary shit that happened to me and my friend during the winter break of our senior year in high school. We worked part-time at a local bakery. Although it didn't pay much, it did give us some spending money. Our store was assigned to bake something for our town's Christmas parade. Our boss, Harold, was ecstatic about this.
Harry, Tim, we're gonna put 100% into this. It has to be perfect.
He said.
Alright, what exactly do you have in mind for us to make?
Tim replied.
I'm glad you asked. Take a look at this.
He said, while pointing to a gingerbread man recipe in an old cookbook. No offense, but isn't this kind of basic? I asked. Harold scoffed.
This recipe isn't for any ordinary gingerbread man. This is for a giant gingerbread man.
How giant are we talking here?
Tim asked, making air quotes with his fingers.
7 foot. I wanted him to be standing on the float at the head of the parade.
Sure, that sounds easy enough.
It took over a week of preparation, but we managed to bake the gingerbread man in our industrial-sized oven. When we finished the job, Harold thanked us profusely, and he gave us the weekend off. I was looking forward to a weekend of gorging myself on junk food and playing games without having to worry about school or work. This was short-lived, however. A few hours into playing Fallout 3, I got a call.
Hey, sorry to bother you. I was wondering if you got a call from Harold?
Tim asked.
I got one from him just now, and I tried to answer, but he hung up before I could.
So what? He probably pocket dialed you or something, I said.
I don't know. What if something happened with the gingerbread man and he needs us?
I sighed. Aren't you jumping to conclusions?
Maybe. Let's say it has. If that's the case, he might end up calling us back in anyway. Do you really want to deal with him in his sulky mood?
He wasn't wrong. Harold was nice enough. His only flaw was getting super disappointed when something major went wrong. I thought back to the time we messed up on a wedding cake order, and he barely spoke to anyone for a week. He got over it eventually. Man, was it depressing to see him like that, though. Fine. We'll go and check. But if nothing's wrong, you'll bring me back home. Got it?
Will do. See you in a few minutes.
It was after 11 when we arrived. Sure enough, Harold's car was still there. Tim looked at me with a smug smile. Shut up. We don't even know if something's gone wrong yet.
See
He
anything?
asked as we looked through the store window. No. Think he's in the back?
He could be. Let's see if the door is unlocked.
Tim said, reaching for the door handle. Sure enough, It was unlocked. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until we noticed the scent wafting through the shop.
"Do you smell that?"
I asked.
"It smells like someone baked pork roast in here."
Tim looked incredulous.
At a bakery?
We exchanged a look, then dashed to the back. The industrial oven was on and smoke billowed out of it. Someone tied it shut, quickly. I turned it off, while Tim untied the ropes, then yanked it open. A blackened, charred body fell out, even though he was horribly disfigured. We knew it was Harold. We both threw up on the spot.
"Jesus fucking Christ!"
I yelled.
How did this happen?
Tim asked, panicking.
We have to call the police! There's been a murder here!
Where's the gingerbread man?
Who gives a flying fuck about a gingerbread man? Our boss was roasted alive, and whoever did this to him may still be here.
When we heard someone coming from the storage area, we realized that making a lot of noise probably wasn't a good idea. We tried to make our way to the exit, but as we did so, a tall figure got in front of us, decked in decorative green and red frosting and gumdrops for buttons. It was the gingerbread man.
What in the fuck?
Tim asked softly.
"Run! Run as fast as you can! I'll always catch you! I'm the gingerbread man!"
It said in a high-pitched, raspy voice.
"It's close enough! Now you two will do exactly as I say! Otherwise, you'll meet the same fate as him!"
The gingerbread man said, pointing to Harold.
"So you were the one who killed him, you bastard!"
Tim growled at him, grabbing a rolling pin.
"Come on, Harry. This asshole is just a giant cookie. We can take him!"
I grabbed a broom that was resting by the counter. Tim and I rushed him. We didn't count on his fast agility and reflexes. He easily disarmed Tim and hit him across the face with the rolling pin. The gingerbread man then attempted to do the same thing to me. Luckily, I was able to block the attack in time with the broom handle. However, that didn't keep him from punching me in the gut. I doubled over, gasping for air. Then he picked us up by our shirts and threw us against the wall.
How is this all happening?
Tim groaned as we slumped to the floor. That question was soon answered when a book fell from atop one of the cabinets and in my lap. We looked at it and saw that it was some kind of occult book. There were various runes scribed on the cover and a bookmark sticking out of it. I turned to the page it marked and found the gingerbread man recipe that we had used.
"What the hell was Harold into?"
I asked.
"More than you know. He wanted the float to be perfect by any means necessary. He thought he could control me. Oh, how wrong he was. Don't worry though, you'll both be joining him soon, which means I'll be free."
We attempted to stand, but he threatened us with the rolling pin. Tim was already bleeding from the last blow he took, and I didn't want to see him injured further.
"Can't you let us go? Even if we tell someone, who would believe us?"
I pleaded.
"You think I will go through all this trouble if it were that simple? Oh, no. You two will experience the same pain like your boss and I did."
My blood went cold.
Hang on. What do you mean, like you did?
Tim asked.
"I was alive before you guys put me in the oven. I couldn't move or speak, but I was aware and felt everything. Do you know how it feels to spend 3 hours in a 444-degree oven? Do you? Well, now you will."
He began to walk toward us.
"Quick, Tim, look through the book. Maybe there's something in there that can stop him."
He frantically flipped through it and said,
"There's nothing in this recipe, and I can't read these symbols."
The gingerbread knocked the book out of his hands. He beat us with the rolling pin until we were too sore to move. Then he opened the walk-in oven and threw us inside. It was only after he tied the lock with the ropes that we were able to move again.
So this is how it ends. Beat up by an evil gingerbread man with a rolling pin, then baked alive in an oven,
I said.
If we survive this, I am going to eat as much gingerbread as I can just to spite this dick.
Tim responded.
You know I can hear you, right?
The gingerbread man asked.
I'll make sure that never happens. Now, burn!
He turned up the oven's heat. We braced ourselves for what was about to happen until we realized nothing was.
What?
The gingerbread man asked, confused and irritated.
Why isn't it working?
Almost as if in response to his question, we heard an electrical crackle, followed by a loud pop. I began to laugh.
What's so funny, asshole?
The gingerbread man snapped it.
The oven must have shorted out. We've been meaning to get it looked at,
I said, still laughing in relief.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Rot in there for all I care.
The gingerbread man grabbed the book and left the bakery. We could see the window from within the oven. Unfortunately for the gingerbread man, the weather was not on his side. Rain poured from the cloudy sky above. We saw him scream and try to run, go back inside, but it was too late. He crumpled before he could reach the door handle.
Huh. The weather was clear when we got here.
Tim said.
Whatever. Let's call somebody to free us,
I said, pulling my phone out of my pocket. We called the police. I was worried at first that we would end up getting the blame for Harold's murder. However, they couldn't explain how or why we would trap ourselves in the walk-in oven, and our injuries for that matter. As far as anyone in this town is concerned, his murder remains unsolved, and his killer is still out there. An officer found the book by the remains of the gingerbread man and asked if we knew anything about it. We replied that it was Harold's, but that we didn't know anything else about it. After skimming through it and frowning, the officer handed it back to us. Despite what happened, the parade went well. Tim and I worked our asses off to make another, less psychotic gingerbread man in time for it. Even though the town was devastated by Harold's death, everyone still had a pretty good time. Tim and I occasionally talk about what happened. We considered burning the book, but figured there may be some useful things in it that we can use, so long as we're careful. Just remember this: cook your food before you bring it to life. Otherwise, you may end up like poor Harold.
Finding a way into tricky situations has never been a problem for me, although I still haven't learned the art of getting out of them.
Jim thought.
It's a great opportunity to learn.
He was not losing his usual optimism.
I got out from a much worse situation before. Everything will be fine. Everyone will have a great laugh out of this. Okay, think where to go. Up or down?
Jim tried to structure his thoughts.
Goal's to go down there, so why change the route now?
Jim tried to wiggle his body and push himself further down, but it didn't bring any progress. The walls were tightly pushing him from all four sides.
Wendy was right. I should lose a few pounds.
The pressure on his belly reminded Jim about the gym membership he was dutifully paying, but not using.
If I can squeeze in my old wedding pants, I can squeeze here.
Jim inhaled deeply, trying to pull his stomach all the way to his back. Reliable pants tricks proved to be useful here too, as Jim dropped down a few inches.
Great. Just a few more of those, and I will be down there.
Jim started celebrating his progress, but it felt like the pressure from the walls was increasing. It was getting harder for Jim to fully inhale and exhale. His breathing became shorter and faster.
Okay, down is not an option.
Jim adjusted his plan.
Let's go up.
He pressed his shoulders and tried to push up with his toes, but Jim couldn't get any grip on the walls.
This is a defeat.
Jim gave up.
At least Gordon will be home with the family soon. I'm sure he'll be surprised that I wanted to do in the first place.
Jim humored himself.
Just need to wait a few hours.
It was hard to keep track of time here, but after what felt like hours, Jim started worrying.
Hey! Is anybody there?
He tried to scream as loud as possible, but the walls were pressing on his chest, making every cry for help quieter than the previous. The panic settled in, and Jim started sobbing and cursing himself for his constant desire to entertain people with over-the-top stunts.
Home sweet home,
said Gordon, dropping the luggage as the kids rushed into the house. Christmas in Hawaii was not such a bad idea. The last-minute tickets were nearly free, making this an even better experience.
Daddy! Daddy! Look! Santa forgot his sack in our fireplace.
I lifted each leg as high as possible as I tread through the snow. The wind and snow fell aggressively as I tried to outrun the man hunting me down, and the man hunting me down trying to outrun the snowstorm. I saw some shelter in the distance. Looked like some kind of lab, but the assailant chasing me must have seen it too because he started walking faster. The snow must have been around 2.5 feet high, which made running difficult. As I got to the stairs of this facility, I headed inside, closed the door behind me and locked it with a key I found on the inside, and I propped up a chair against it too, and looked around for a radio. I couldn't find a working one. It's just a matter of time until he gets here, I thought. I need a plan. Rushing to the kitchen, I grabbed a knife from the drawer and proceeded to the front door, where the assailant was now attempting to break in from.
Let me in, you motherfuckers! Let me in! Don't leave me out here!
I heard the man fall down the stairs and into the snow. As I heard his muffled screams, I opened the door to see his body being dragged under the snow. I immediately closed the door, locked it behind me, propped up a chair again, and stood back with the knife in my hand. My eyes darted around the room looking for some movement through the icy windows, just any sign of someone else around the premises. An hour passed, and I sat on the floor waiting for something to happen, but nothing ever did. Getting up, I held the knife firmly in my hand and carefully approached the window. I looked through the frosted window. A man's head and upper body were in the snow, and his waist and legs stuck out of the snow. Utter silence filled the air. Then, out of nowhere, the man who'd been chasing me smacked his face against the glass, pleading to come inside.
Let me in!
I stood back from the window in horror as his screams for help with his face pressed against the glass turned into a bloodbath as he started violently vomiting on the glass. His face turned emotionless as it fell into the snow, and something moved from his body into the snow again. A dead and damp silence filled the air once more. Suddenly, something fell at the back of the building. I carefully peered around the corner, and nothing appeared to be wrong. I looked down at the ground for where a person could have been, but nothing was there. Then I saw it on the ceiling. Both its eyes individually blinked twice, and as it fell from the ceiling, it stood on all fours and stood up on 2 feet, crouching due to the ceiling. I ran for the front door, unlocked it, moved the chair, and rushed out into the snow as it violently leapt after me.